Welcome back. Higher Education Deputy Minister Buti Manamela says the National Student Financial Aid Scheme plans to move employees from its headquarters in Cape Town to set up regional offices within the provinces. The Special Investigating Unit, the SIU, is pushing ahead with the court application to set aside the 2.5 million rand a month agreement for the lease of rental offices. Outa project manager Rudie Heyneke joins us now for more. Rudie, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. So we hear that the Deputy Minister is pushing for these offices to be moved, but I think at the helm of this is just the cost of how much the National Financial Aid Scheme is using in terms of renting these offices. And what was particularly alarming, I think, with an article that was penned by News 24 is the 2,431 rand per bay per month that NSFAS is currently paying for.
Yes, good evening, Katlego. That's correct. The lease agreement was signed by NSFAS in March 2022, and for all purposes, there was a 6.5% escalation in the price per year. They started off with 1,750 rand per parking bay, 140 parking bays, and now we see that it's more than 2,300 rand. Now that is ridiculous if you think that there's 350 or around about 350 employees in that building. The building is situated in the most exclusive area in the CBD of Cape Town. And like you have alluded to, the minister making the announcement or the suggestion rather that that NSFAS should decentralize. And I fully agree with that, but I think they must take it a step further. There are 26 universities in South Africa and 50 TVET colleges. And I think that NSFAS can accommodate one or at least two employees or personnel at each of these institutions, so that they are more, they are there for the students. They can serve the students better. And that will also lead to a smaller and a more affordable head office wherever it is in South Africa. It's not supposed to be or not necessary to be in Cape Town.
And I mean, when we look at these costs, I mean, you do speak that this agreement was signed in March of 2022 and it was going to end in 2027. And the total 5-year cost would have been around 166.9 million rand. And just to think how much that could really have assisted students that are in need of accommodation, equipment, books, and also just some of those that could be accommodated within the institutions that you mentioned.
Absolutely. And if you think that, 166 million rand is a lot of money, how much, as you said, how much of that can go to the students or for better facilities or better accommodation and so forth. And I think that, if we look at this agreement, the SIU has got a proclamation signed by the president, I think in August 2021, to look at the business of NSFAS and investigate the affairs there. And this is part of their investigation. We have handed over all our information to the SIU. NSFAS did not want to provide us with any information when we submitted the PIA request. But I trust that the SIU will do a good investigation and that they will bring this lease agreement before the tribunal to get it reviewed and cancelled, because it is not necessary for a state institution to rent an office block in the most expensive part in the CBD of Cape Town.
You mentioned that the SIU has got a proclamation on this, and this was signed, actually, this lease agreement, by the previous NSFAS CEO, Andile Ngongo, before he was fired in October of 2023. Now, the acting NSFAS CEO came out and said at a committee within Parliament that as NSFAS, they would also be joining the SIU in being a co-applicant in that application to set aside this contract and its termination. What does that spirit say to us about maybe the new management and the new board that has come in terms of them seeing some of these mistakes and trying to rectify them in that way?
Yes, I think that it's not only about the lease agreement. that they will want to take on review, if we can call it that. But a few other agreements and service providers that were appointed by the previous regime, and if we talk about the previous regime, it is the Andile Nongogo and Ernest Kosa regime, not so much the administrator who was at the helm of NSFAS in the past year. And I think that the new board and the new management see that the expenses are just too high, and the monies that they pay to these service providers for the lease and a lot of other agreements that were signed by the previous regime can be done much cheaper. Some of it can be done in-house, and some of them, there are just much better plans. For example, the distribution of student allowances. You don't need to have a third party or a middleman to distribute those funds. You can pay directly to a student's bank account. So that is a part of the new strategy of the new regime to say, let's cut the costs and let's better and up the services that we provide to the beneficiaries of NSFAS.
I mean, you speak about the new and the old regime. Do you think that there still needs to be consequences for the old regime in taking such decisions? I mean, money has been spent and students have been, they have not really received the benefits of such funds.
Absolutely. I think that it is very necessary to take steps, and that accountability should be there. I do believe that there are criminal cases against Mr. Kosa and Mr. Nongogo et al., who's receiving attention at this stage. And then, of course, all the cases that the SIU will bring in future to the tribunal for several agreements, like the portal providers who's managing the student accommodation. I think that those contracts will all be brought to the tribunal for a review, and there should be consequence management in this matter.
And does this bring hope, Rudie, in just how government institutions are then finding ways to reverse some decisions that are taken in shortchanging citizens in the way that this particular decision has?
Yes. If you look at what happened recently when the Minister of Higher Education cancelled all the appointments of the CETA chairpersons that were appointed because of the outcry from civil society, from political parties, from labor unions, then it shows that, the department especially is taking outcries like this seriously, and that they want to bring about change. If you look at the NSFAS board that was appointed recently, there's a combination of young professionals, not the old guard that we had. I don't think that there's any, cronies that were appointed on that board. And we do believe and we trust that this new boards, this new chairpersons of the CETAs will follow the same pattern, and that we can see more accountability, better governance, and people serving the country. They are all called up for country duty, and they can serve the country with integrity.
I mean, speaking about that accountability, just in closing, Rudie, talk to us about some of the reforms or the improvements that you think are necessary to ensure that greater transparency and that we get good value, especially when it comes to such government agreements.
I immediately think about one example that I can tell you about, and that was when we tried to contact the previous NSFAS regime, like we're talking about them now. The doors just closed in our faces. We could not meet them. We spoke to them through their lawyers, as a matter of fact. Whereas the new board and the new management, we have met twice already. We have met with the minister. So there's a lot more engagement from the department, from NSFAS, and I will believe that in future from the CETAs as well. That contribute to better transparency and a better engagement between civil society and the Department of Higher Education.
All right, Rudie Heyneke, thank you so much for your time and for joining us this evening. That is the Outa project manager, Rudie Heyneke, speaking to us there about that lease agreement for the National Student Financial Aid Scheme.